Hello, this is Ray Mota from ACG, and welcome to this edition of The Hot Seat. Joining me today is Barry Hill from Nokia. Barry, thanks for joining The Hot Seat.
Thanks, Ray. It's a pleasure.
I appreciate it. Listen, in The Hot Seat, we like to get started right away. Now, I noticed in your title that it includes solutions, partners, applications, and analytics. Do you mind elaborating a little bit about what your business unit is all about?
Sure. So in Nokia, there are 5 business groups. One of those business groups is our software organization, which we've termed applications and analytics.
Right.
Within there are multiple business units. I represent one, which is solutions and partners.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of that, I have responsibility for really looking at new offerings to our customer base, service providers predominantly, and adjacent markets as we start to expand into new marketplaces. And the idea is to identify and rapidly innovate and realize or industrialize quite complex software-based solutions, and also to integrate partners that we are engaging with in both our ecosystems, go-to-market partners for application analytics, which is foundational for us to grow our business as we expect.
Yeah. Now, you've been in this business for a long time, right? I mean, we see that service providers are facing a lot of challenges, and many of them are looking to survive and transform the business. I mean, what do you see as some of those challenges? But more importantly, how is Nokia addressing some of those?
Yeah. So, I mean, the major challenge that carriers have been going through now for the last 6 or 7 years is to be able to innovate quick enough. Mm-hmm. To be able to compete with the carrier competitors, as well as with some of the OTTs, as the market is transforming itself. So as part of that, one of the key initiatives is really about virtualization. How do I move from what was self-contained physical devices into this kind of a software-driven x86 world of cloud? Right. And Nokia, like any other company, has adopted that wholeheartedly. It's a part of what we do. The reason we've set up our software business group is to address that and lead in this space. Right. And I think that as a business, though, or as an industry, we're still challenged with doing what I call random acts of proof of concept or random acts of POC. Where we spend all of our time just trying to prove that I can do what I used to do in a cloud-based environment. And we should be able to do it cheaper, more efficiently by taking advantage of open source, some carrier-developed technologies. But we've kind of got to the point where we're not moving that forward, I feel. We've sucked cost out of everywhere. We've tried to optimize where we can. The carriers have been trying to optimize where they can. But you know what? If we don't break through the next level of real, true operational transformation, where we can drive OpEx out of the cost structure by 60, 70, 80%, not by 5 or 10%.
Right. Something impactful.
Yeah, we're never going to change. Yeah. So, a lot of the work that I've been doing is what is it that I could build? What is it I could deliver to my customers that could fundamentally transform that? And we have been working on this whole effort and principle around a thing called LeanOps. Okay. And Lean is a discipline that actually has come out of not come out of the telecom industry. For transformation, and as a discipline around 4 key principles, and that is automation through massive adoption and use of analytics, right? Through using some different ways of engaging complex information through what we call human factors engineering. Yes. And the 4th principle is around programmability, kind of rapid plug and play of components. The solutions that we're building that adopt those key principles, we think will change the way that carriers can now operate and run their business.
Right. Yeah. Now, I'm aware that you're working on a variety of projects, right? Are you able to share any light into the priorities of when some of those projects are going to come out and what they are?
Sure. The first one that we're looking at is really an interesting one for the carrier community. We call dynamic enterprise services. And if you think about that, it's the idea of now moving what used to be physical customer premise equipment and have that offered the same capability as a service by the carriers.
Okay.
So the reason this is important, if we can do this right, is that the carrier community can get a new revenue generating marketplace and immediately adopt the operational principles of transformation.
Yeah, makes sense.
And our goal is to make sure that we can engage and deploy these to our carriers so they can deploy them to their customers, in days instead of weeks or weeks instead of years.
Right.
And the idea of having the ability in our software organization to really accelerate innovation to realization or industrialization, we think that will give us leadership position in the market that our competitors, and not only that, even the IT vendors who are out there who've been in this cloud world longer than the Nokias of the world have been, we believe we've got a stepwise jump on them. So that's one. That's this dynamic enterprise services. The second is some work that we're doing around what we call government cloud, where we're applying a lot of these same principles, but to particularly emerging countries who are looking to rapidly take advantage of technology to jumpstart their growth and maturity, to help them, build their nation fundamentally. So they're the two engagements we've got now, two solutions that we're building. We're building on top of the LeanOps discipline, and we're excited about the opportunity that will come from that.
Now, you talked about LeanOps, right? And I see a lot of service providers and a lot of vendors looking to be more agile in the development cycle. Tell us a bit about your development methodology and how do you see software development changing over time?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So a couple of things. First of all, the core tenet in my particular engineering business unit is how do I get from innovation to realization quickly?
Quickly, right.
And how do I do it in the context where I've now disaggregated these well understood behaving functions.
Right.
And now I've got to deal with open source, I've got to deal with some of my intellectual property, we've got carriers building their own intellectual property, and of course we've got our partner community and ecosystem.
Right.
And all of these things have to work together quickly. So we in my team have adopted end-to-end agile development and engineering methodologies. We're looking at doing, and a number of carriers have come to us and said, look, I don't want to buy all of your technology. I have some of my own. I would like you to use these frameworks. So they're talking to us a lot now about DevOps and co-creation.
And co-creation, okay.
And these sort of ways of engaging a company like Nokia will fundamentally change the relationship between our companies going forward. And it has to be built on speed. It has to be built on the principles of automation using analytics. And human factors engineering, and we're doing some spectacular work right now where the carriers are looking at it and saying, I never expected that to come from that company.
That's great to hear. I'm glad you mentioned the human factor because I think there needs to be a cultural change on top of the technology there.
Right. And look, I think that the idea of moving to a more standards-based infrastructure to deliver networks, from a cost control procurement perspective, we're pretty much at the floor.
Right.
The market has slowed down. Everybody's challenged with meeting their requirements, carriers and the vendors. If we don't break through the floor into this world where we now move OPEX not from a 10% more efficient, but to a 80 and 90% more efficient,
something really impactful, right?
Then we're not changing anything.
Right.
All right, and none of us are going to succeed. So the idea of taking this next big major leap forward against, and I don't like using the word, but against some form of operational transformation religion.
Okay.
You've got to believe in it. Otherwise we're just doing, again, I'll say it again, doing random acts of POC where we're just doing technical validation of everything that we used to do. We just do it on a different platform.
Right.
That's not the answer.
Yeah. Now, I guess I'd like to close with a two-part question. And early on, you talked about partners, right? What role do you see the partners playing in your ecosystem environment? And then honestly, just close with what do you see as next coming up?
Sure. So first of all, partners are critical to any major software business in the world.
Okay.
All right. Otherwise, you could do it all yourself.
That's right.
That's the first thing. The second thing is, as I said before, we have to deliver complex solutions to our customers that don't come from us.
Right.
So we have to have a valuable ecosystem to draw from because we don't have all the answers.
That's right. Yeah.
The third thing is that as we go to explore new adjacent markets, we don't have access to some of those markets. Our partners do, and we'll work to engage with them with some of our powerful software assets. So, partners is a foundational and fundamental to what we do. In terms of where we're going with this, I believe we need to do two things. One, we need to industrialize how to bring these complex multi-component solutions to market quickly, and for Nokia quicker than anybody else,
Right.
such that carriers can start implementing these new services, as I said, in days instead of weeks, in weeks instead of years.
Right.
All right, so that's the first thing. I need to work out how to industrialize these and allow carriers to have some level of personalization and customization, but not enough that I've got to go and rebuild it every time. Second thing is how we engage in this massive transformation through things like co-creation, through engineering to engineering development, where we jointly define the epic with our customer and our engineering teams on present mode to future mode of operational changes.
Right.
And we're going to show results like every 2 weeks.
Right.
Not at the end of a 9-month engagement.
Right.
And that's a very different way of engaging.
That is a different way of thinking, yeah.
And I think Nokia, our software organization, and my team even in particular, that's foundational. We have to do that. And we have to move quickly.
Right. Yeah. Well, Barry, you're officially off the hot seat.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate this time.
With Barry, this is Ray Mota. Thanks for joining this edition of The Hot Seat.